What's up, it's Jan back at it again with another nerdy bookish video. This is gonna be my 25 for 2025. I am so excited to be filming this finally because I'm locking it in. I always do like 5 different drafts for this list and this year was no exception. I just switched out some books right before filming this, but I have my list, my final draft if you will. These are just the 25 books that I definitely, absolutely, no excuses, will get to in 2025. I'm not doing the challenge that I did last year of like if you don't get to it you unhaul it, because like what's the freaking point of that? The only person I'm hurting is myself. It's just added pressure that I don't need. This list and this video, this accountability that I'm putting on myself is pressure enough. I don't need that extra challenge, you know? I'm done. That's an out for 2025. I'm about to film my 2025 ins and outs for Patreon. Sneak peek, that's one of them, is to just let go of all the extra pressure. Fun pressure is fine, like challenges, you know, like this or readathons or whatever, but unnecessary ones, leaving those in 2024. Anyway, another difference between this one and 2024's lists is this one has no fantasy. I love fantasy when I understand and when I'm fully invested in the story. Like today I just started This Woven Kingdom, which by the way is on my 24 for 2024. And once I'm in, I'm fine. It's just they're so intimidating to me, and if I assign fantasies to myself, there's a high chance that I don't get to them. So this is mainly romance, litfic, and some horror, and a couple thrillers, I think. I was gonna do all horror at first, and then I was like, I read it year-round anyway. That's like my main genre. The point of this is to like broaden my horizons on a more regular basis, you know? At the end of this year, I've been fully in my romance mood. Not fully. I've still been reading other genres, but I had 2 phases this year where I was all in, only want to read romance, and that was in the summer when I discovered cowboy romances. Peep my Rebel Blue Ranch sweatshirt. And then at the end of the year when I'm burnt out and just want easy breezy brain books, you know what I mean? But also good romances that aren't super cringy. With all that being said, I have 4 books that come out next year. I wanted it to be just books I own already, but these 4 are like auto-buy authors 5-star predictions, other than one of them. But I guess we could start with that one, which is Atmosphere by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I don't know when this comes out. I think June, sometime in the summer. When this was first announced, I was uninterested because it's space related and I'm not into that. And then I realized, wow, I read every single Taylor Jenkins Reid book. I can't skip this one just because it focuses on NASA and space and whatever. I mean, it's litfic or like contemporary fiction or whatever, so I'm sure the writing's still good. I'm sure there are quotes that will resonate with me, so I'm putting it on this list so that I get to it because, like I said, I've read her entire backlist and I've loved pretty much every single one other than Malibu Rising and Maybe in Another Life. That's the first book. It could be 5 stars, who knows? The second book that comes out next year is Wild and Wrangled, which is the 4th book in the Rebel Blue Ranch series. I'm obsessed. I mean, ever since Done and Dusted, hooked, line, sinkered, baby. I'm glad I started with this series because they're short. If you're trying to get into cowboy romances, I suggest starting with these because they're shorter than, you know, Elsie Silver books or whatever. They're more bite size as opposed to fully going into Chestnut Springs. Done and Dusted, I gave 4 stars, then 5 stars to Swift and Saddled, 5 stars to Lost and Lassoed. So I really think this one's gonna be 5 stars because this one follows Cam and I forgot the guy's name. We got a good snippet of the premise of that book in Lost and Lassoed at the very end, so I'm stoked. I'm sad that it's the last book, but I really hope Lila Sage continues to write small town romances, and I hope she does spin-offs with cameos from these characters from Rebel Blue Ranch because I love all of them. I love the found family trope in all these books. The next one that comes out next year, but Wild and Wrangled, when does that come out? Is it April? I think it's April. And then King of Envy by Anna Huang. Can't remember when it comes out, but this is the 5th book? King of Wrath, King of Pride, King of Greed, King of Sloth. I've read all of them, 5-starred all of them. This is book 5, King of Envy, in the Kings of Sin series by Anna Huang. She's an auto-buy, auto-read author for me. I started reading her books last year, and I finally bought all the Kings of Sin books, and I need to reread them and annotate them because the first 3 I read on my Kindle, on Kindle Unlimited, and then the 4th one I read and annotated, bought on release day, finished the next day or so, and then it got stolen in Joey's car because 2024 was so good to to me. God, I can't wait for this year to end. I'm so excited for 2025. Like I said in one of my vlogs, 2025 is going to be 2024's redeeming arc. I will stand by that. I will die on that hill. 2024 had too many downs and lacked too many ups. So we're going to redeem that. We're going to turn that around next year. The last couple months of the year have already done that for me ever since September. And next year, I think y'all will finally know why. September was the start of things going uphill, but stay tuned for that because I'm not ready. Anyway, and then the last book that's not out yet is Blood on Her Tongue by Joanna Van Veen, who wrote My Darling Dreadful Thing, and I gave 5 stars. It was my vote for Goodreads Choice Awards for the horror category, and this one has vampires in it, and that's all I needed to know. Vampires and gothic vibes, and the cover's cool. I just love this author's writing. My Darling Dreadful Thing was her debut, so I'm excited to read her sophomore novel. I'm not sure when that one comes out. That's a horror book. Now let's just move on to the books I have physically already. Part of Your World by Abby Jimenez. This is an arc, yeah, and I have yet to read it. I started it. I have a tab in here actually. I think I read like 2 chapters of it and I was liking it, but I paused because I was intimidated by the hype. I was like, let me wait until Abby Jimenez dies down, and she never died down, so I think it's time. I own 3 of her books, so this is gonna happen very soon. I know this is about Alexis and Daniel. They're like worlds collide. One's from a big city, one's a small town. I just love stories like this. I love this cover, love the baby goat. I'm sure a lot of you have read this already, but I'm excited to dive into my very first Abby Jimenez, and I know I'm gonna fall in love with her. I can't wait for Say You'll Remember Me because I've already watched ARC review vlogs for that book, and I just know I'm gonna love that. I know. That's why I keep putting it off. I do this thing where I put off 5-star predictions, but now that I'm more into contemporary romance, we're gonna attempt. We're gonna do it. We're not gonna attempt. We're gonna do it. There's only do and do not, Jan. There's no try for this list. I'm also gonna try to read more romantasy. I say try now, but I'm definitely gonna try to read more romantasy next year as well. I don't have any in this list because I don't want to commit, but that's one of my goals for next year as well. Next, we have a nonfiction, Uncanny by Junji Ito. This is my only nonfiction on this list. I added this last minute because I was like, I bought this on release day with Gabby from Bucket of Blood when she came to visit. I said I would read it right away, never got to it, so I figured why not just put it on this list. Junji Ito is the king of horror manga. I've read everything he's done so far except The Cat Diaries. This is his memoir and I can't wait because Tomie, that effect on it, end pages, the naked, are you kidding? Are you kidding? This is just such a well-crafted book. It's like blue inside and there's illustrations. Oh, that's probably gonna get me demonetized. But there are illustrations and like his sketches, and there's like a flip animation thing on the corner if you could see that. So really excited for this. I'm not doing my 1 nonfiction a month goal next year because I feel like I've read enough nonfiction to where I could just pick that up on my own volition. I don't need that, again, that added pressure. So let's try to alternate between romance and not romance. Next we have Things We Never Got Over by Lucy Score. This is another one that I've started and put on many a TBR. I was liking it, but then I was like, wow, I have so many other books to read. I don't want to commit to this long romance, but I love long romances. I am one of those few who love and support 600-page romances. I don't even care. As long as the slow burn is good, as long as there's not too much cringe and that there's an actual plot and it's not just all smut. I don't mind smut if it's like in a novella, you know? If the steamy scenes are good and like tasteful and well done, well written, mixed with like a cute, especially small town romances, so here for it. And I have this whole trilogy. I've seen the special editions, which aren't the best, but do I still want them? I do indeed, but I want to read them first to see how obsessed I will be with this series. This is the Knock 'Em Out series. This is set in a small town. I started it. There are these twins and one's super rebellious and has a bad reputation, and her twin was just trying to get coffee, and then everyone was like shunning her and being rude to her, and then this guy comes in and is like, this isn't her twin, what are you talking about? And I think it's like Grumpy Sunshine kind of. Knox Morgan doesn't tolerate drama, especially in the form of a stranded runaway bride. Like I said, I own all 3 books, and I think at least one other Lucy Score book. Yeah, one of my patrons gifted me The Dead Guy Next Door, and I liked her writing so far. I know it's very like almost simplistic, but it's again easy breezy brain book. Next we have The Gathering by CJ Tudor. This has been on many a TBR as well. This has been on many a poll for Patreon. I put this on several polls for like Bloody Reads or Full Moon Book Club picks, and it hasn't won yet. It's come close, but it hasn't won yet. And it has vampires in it, and it's a thriller, and it's like set during the winter. It's very vibey, and I just want to read it already. And I think the chapters are really short, if I recall. Ew, that's a lot of italics. What the fuck? It's set in a small Alaska town, and I just know there's vampires. And there are very few thrillers that I've seen that have vampires in like a contemporary setting without it being too fantasy, if that makes sense. I feel like this is gonna give me exactly the vibes that I want. I just need to get to it. I think, I have read CJ Tudor before. I've read The Burning Girls, and I think I started The Drift but never finished it. Next we have Icebreaker by Hannah Grace. This is another romance series that I have the entire series of because of Daydream, whatever the third book is, the purple one with the Taylor Swift cardigan on the front. I heard that one's the best one, but I cannot, my completionist brain cannot just jump to a third book. No matter how many people tell me it's a standalone interconnected series, I'm gonna read every single book in order because that's just how I am. I don't care. I can't just jump. So we're gonna attempt this, and if I'm obsessed with it, you can bet your bottom dollar that I'm buying the special edition because that's what made me interested in it in the first place, because the special edition is so pretty. It just gives all the wintry vibes. They're like, well, the Waterstones one has snowflakes on the edges, but the American special edition has an ombre, and it's just so cute with like the pink and the white and the font. It's so much better than this cover, but this one's not bad either. This is an ice hockey romance, the Maple Hills series. It seems like some people either love or hate this book / this series. I feel like I'm gonna like this one better than the second one though, because the second one takes place in the summer in like a summer camp, and that's not really my cup of tea when it comes to like book settings, but I can get behind a hockey romance. Then we have The Troop by Nick Cutter. Joey has finally convinced me to finally pick this up. When I first heard about this book and when he read this book, he said, you know, how disgusting it is and whatever. So I was like kind of nervous. So I was like, I can't handle it. And I know there's an animal abuse scene with turtles, and it also follows a bunch of boys and they go camping or whatever. And again, that's not my vibe. But he said, now that I have a bunch of extreme horror under my belt, this is cake. So I want to finally know what people are talking about. I want to read Gabby from Gabby Reads' favorite book. So it's a troop of boys in the Canadian wilderness for a weekend camping trip, and creepy shit goes down. So I'm excited to finally understand the hype around this book. I already know I'm going to read this for a Do Your Worst episode sometime in the beginning of the year. I haven't exactly planned it out, but I know it's one of my guests' worst books. If you didn't know what Do Your Worst is, I'll link the playlist down below. It's a series I started this year where I read my friends' worst books hoping to find a favorite, because it's usually friends I have opposite tastes with. Anyway, the next book is That Time I Got Drunk and Saved a Human by Kimberly Lemming. I guess this is the closest I'm gonna get to like fantasy in this list, because it's technically like a fantasy romance. This is the last book in the trilogy, the first one being The Time I Got Drunk and Saved a Demon. They're just a fun, silly, goofy time. The spice isn't that great, but the humor's fun. The characters are fun to read about. This one follows Cherry. She finds herself locked away in a dragon's tower and realizes that fate has a peculiar sense of humor when it comes to her romantic prospects in the sweet, steamy, and laugh-out-loud tale from the new star of rom-com fantasy. I had a good time with the first one. The second one had a werewolf in it, and I'm not a fan of Omegaverse, but I do have a couple books. I'm gonna keep trying with Omegaverse. I just can't with the nodding, but hopefully this one is good. I've heard this one is some people's favorite of the series. The next one is a lit fic called If Only by Vigdis Hjorth. I'm sorry if I butchered that. Picking up this book was one of those times where I just went into Barnes & Noble and just didn't look at reviews or anything. I bought it solely based on the cover and synopsis. A groundbreaking, potent novel about the destructive force of romantic love. We have a 30-year-old who was married in her early 20s, had 2 children. It's set in the winter. She's written a diary. She has an impending sense of doom or possibly her own death. Can passion be mistaken for love? She meets this guy named Arnold, who's also married. She impulsively invites him to share her bed. She becomes half obsessed with him. It's just about having an affair. Their mounting jealousies and insecurities begin to curdle in a toxic blend of violence and addiction. A love affair consumes a Norwegian woman's life. Narration is both irresistible and exhausting, a headlong rush that describes and enacts Ida's feelings as she careens between love and hate for a man she knows isn't worth the sacrifice. It evokes the agony of her protagonist's self-entrapment to a devastating degree. It's an enthralling tale of passion gone to rot. It sounds so fucking good. I love an obsession story. I love when love is the center of a book, but like also toxic love. One thing about me is I love reading about toxic relationships because they're so relatable. Because hello, been there, done that. Hi, I'm Jan. Nice to meet you. Next, we have a romance that I have put on a lot of TBRs as well for years now. I love one of the books by this author, and then I bought a bunch of her books, and then I never read another one again. The Road Trip by Beth O'Leary needs to happen in 2025. This has a main character named Addie. I have so many books books that are evidence of the fact that books with main characters that are Addie, Adeline, Adelaide are usually 5 stars for me. Hopefully this is no different. This is, I believe, a second chance romance, which is my favorite romance trope. So they're 2 exes who are forced to take a road trip together, and they're trying to get to a wedding in rural Scotland. I didn't know that. That's exciting. I love a road trip book. I love road trips in general. This would have been fun to read while we were on a road trip to Tennessee, but alas. Here we are. Ew, I just saw my ex's name. Next we have a literary horror type of situation, Absorbed by Kylie Whitehead. This is another one I just added right before filming this video. I wasn't sure if I wanted to include gifts, but then I realized that I'm not unhauling them, so might as well include some gifts. This is from one of my patrons, Destiny, so thank you so much. I'm so excited because she knows my taste pretty well. It says, a darkly comic story of female insecurity, body horror, and modern relationships. Everything I love. Thought this was just lit fic. I had no idea this was horror until Destiny gifted it to me. So thank you so much. This is such an unsettling cover, but also very aesthetically pleasing. The next one is a romance. This Could Be Us by Kennedy Ryan. This is the Barnes & Noble exclusive edition. I think the only thing that's changed is like the color of these flowers and like the foiling. I know I just said that I'm not a fan of jumping around in interconnected standalone series, but this is an exception because the first book, Before I Let Go, involves miscarriages and, or no, stillborn babies or whatever, and a bunch of like pregnancy talk. And I know it's a second chance romance too, but I just cannot fathom reading that book with that being the main premise. So we're skipping to this one. And I know this one has a lot of like self-love talk and just learning how to date yourself. This woman's life goes awry. I think she goes through a breakup or something, and then she is learning how to trust again, but then she's also learning how to like navigate life by herself. And I just love books like that. I've seen a lot of out of context quotes from this book. I'm so ready. I'm so excited. And this will be my first Kennedy Ryan. Next is another unhinged kind of lit fic. Ignore the Half Price Books sticker, but I found Brutes by Diz Tate at Half Price Books. This is one that shows up on all those unhinged women book lists, so I was like, I have to. And it's super short. It says it's a fever dream of a novel, and I know this is about a bunch of teenagers who like look out their windows and see something creepy. Figures drift across the landscape. These girls know everything about everyone, perhaps too much. So I'm sure it's some sort of character study with some creepy elements, and we learn some like dark secrets going around. I don't know. The next romance we have is The X Vows by Jessica Joyce. This is another one where I've seen so many rave reviews about, so many 5-star reviews on Goodreads, and so many out of context quotes that I absolutely love. This is another second chance romance, and it is set in the summer at a wedding, which are 2 things that I'm not a fan of. I don't usually gravitate towards summer romances, but this one is going to be an exception because I just love a second chance. I loved all the quotes and things that I've heard about it, so I'm excited. I heard this is one of those wedding books that like everything goes wrong with the wedding and the 2 exes have to like work together to fix it. I don't know. The premise sounds a little bit basic, but I heard the writing is really good and it really like encapsulates emotion really well. That's all I've heard. Next we have Good Material by Dolly Alderton. I have been eyeing this book ever since I got it from Book of the Month, even before it, and I was so shook that Book of the Month had it as an add-on, I think, or an actual pick. I don't remember. But I've never read Dolly Alderton, but I own, I think, 2 or 3 of her books. Yeah, I own Ghosts and Everything I Know About Love. And I heard her writing is really good. Again, out of context quotes really get me every single time. And this is a lit fic about, I think there was a breakup in this as well. In this sharply funny and exquisitely relatable account of romantic disaster and friendship, Dolly Alderton offers up a love story with 2 endings, demonstrating once again why she is one of the most exciting writers today and the true voice of a generation. I heard the writing's really good in this and it hits the feels. The next romance is In the Weeds by B.K. Borison, the sequel to Love Light Farms, which I surprisingly gave 5 stars. That was one of the biggest surprises when I don't know what possessed me to pick it up. Oh, we were on a cabin trip last year and I was like, okay, might as well try this Christmas romance thing, and now I'm a Christmas romance girly, okay? I'm not even gonna lie, I'm not even gonna deny it, but I loved Love Light Farms, I love the characters, love the small town, so I'm finally going to continue the series because I own the entire series, because of course I do. This follows a social media influencer that we met in the first book. Again, social media is not my cup of tea when it comes to books. That's kind of why I kept putting this off, but I know the writing's gonna be good. There's a grumpy farmer and it's an easy rom-com, so we're gonna attempt to finish this series next year. And I know B.K. Borison is coming out with First Time Caller, I think early in the year as well, so hopefully I finish this series fairly close to that release date. Next we have La Petite Mort by Olivia Blake. This is a short little vampire story. I guess this is also fantasy, but it takes place in New Orleans Orleans, which is always a great setting. After the death of her estranged grandmother, Marisa Marrero finds herself bequeathed a surprising inheritance, a house in the New Orleans French Quarter. A series of encounters with Elizabeth Clavier, a notorious vampire rumored to hunt mortals for sport. I just love Olivia Blake's writing. I read Alone with You in the Ether and The Atlas Six, and I own a lot of her books, and I know she's part Filipino, so I'm excited to finally read her vampire book. I also have Masters of Death, I have One for My Enemy, I have the rest of the Atlas Six series. Oh, I also have January's, which I just bought in Tennessee, and I can't wait for Gifted and Talented. So I just want to read all her books. It's just, her writing is so dense sometimes, it's intimidating, but I like that this is a bite-sized vampire novella. Off to the Races by Elsie Silver. I did dip my toes into Elsie Silver finally. I read Flawless, and I started Heartless. This is the Gold Rush Ranch series. I don't think this is connected to Chestnut Springs at all. I'm just so glad that they redid these covers because I love these. I also don't mind the indie editions of these, but I like these way better. I know some people hate them, but I love them. And I have 3 of the books so far in this series, so I need to get going on this. Hopefully I am able to finish Chestnut Springs, and then I'm gonna go to this, and then I'm gonna go to Wild Love, or Rose Hill series. But this is another cowboy yeehaw romance. Von Harding heads from the city to small town Ruby Creek, intent on revitalizing his family's ranch and the scandal attached to its name in the wake of his grandfather's unexpected passing. He needs a win, and when he hires Billy Black to train his best but most stubborn racehorse, he hopes she can deliver. Ah, I love that. There's gonna be so many horses, hopefully, in this book. Cursed Bread by Sophie McIntosh. This is like a historical horror kind of like weird girl book also. I know it's inspired by something. I looked it up at one point. Beneath the tranquil surface of daily life, strange things are happening. 6 horses are found dead in a sun-drenched field, laid out neatly on the ground like an offering. Widows see their lost husbands walking up the river in the night, coming back to claim them. A teenage boy throws himself into the bonfire at the midsummer feast. A dark intoxication is spreading through the town, and when Elodie finally understands her role in it, it will be too late to stop. I can't remember which historical event this was based on. I'm sorry. Someone can leave it in the comments if you know off the top of your head. This just sounds really good, and I heard the writing's good in this, but also people say it's slow. The chapters are fairly short. Ooh, there's letters. Then we have The Har by David Sodergren. This was gifted to me by one of my vampies, Amanda. Thank you for this, because this has been chilling in my Kindle from Kindle Unlimited for a while, because I know so many people have loved this. So many of my patrons. Gabby has loved this as well. I think she read it twice this year. I just want to know what the hype's about. I loved Maggie's Grave by David Sodergren, and I heard this one gets emotional as well, and I love an emotional horror, you know? I love a deep plot in horror, but I also like a fun time. We'll see how this goes. Again, it's short. I tried to be nice to myself with the length of these books. There are a few bigger gals, but they are romance, I think, for the most part. Last minute, I took out a couple non-romance books that were 400 pages. I was like, I'm not gonna do this to myself. Again, we're trying to be nice to ourselves in 2025, okay? Talking at Night by Claire Daverly. This has been going around Book Talk and Bookstagram. Not that I'm on Book Talk other than work. I personally do not have a TikTok, but I use it at work, and this is everywhere because this is Compared to Normal People by Sally Rooney, which I love. I'm actually waiting on a Normal People crew neck as we speak. I did start this, I think, but I didn't get too far. I'm just ready to have my heart broken, and I want to see how it lives up to that comp to Normal People. That's some big shoes to fill, you know? It just seems like it's another story about these 2 characters who just, it's like right person, wrong time type of situation. I don't know. I heard it gets hard-hitting and heart-wrenching, so we'll see about that. 2 more, y'all. We've got Ordinary Human Failings by Megan Nolan, who's the author of Acts of Desperation. I cannot believe I haven't read this yet. Acts of Desperation is one of my favorite books of all time. It tugged at so many heartstrings and made me cry several times, and I bought this way before it came out in the US because I thought I would read it immediately. This is the UK edition, and I haven't yet. It's 1990 in London, and Tom Hargreaves has it all. His star looks set to rise when he stumbles across a scoop, a dead child on a London estate, grieving parents loved across the neighborhood, and the finger of suspicion pointing at one reclusive family of Irish immigrants and bad apples, the Greens. At their heart sits Carmel, beautiful, otherworldly, broken, and once destined for a future beyond her circumstances until life and love got in her way. Crushed by failure and surrounded by disappointment, there's nowhere for her to go and no chance of escape. Now with the police closing in on a suspect and the tabloids hunting their monster, she must confront the secrets and silences that have trapped her family for so many generations. So it seems like there's some sort of mystery / darker element to this, in addition to following this woman, I'm assuming, and just like a character study with a bunch of universal truths weaved in there. This like underlying plot. I don't know. Who knows? I just know it's short, it's lit fic, and it's by one of my favorite authors. And then lastly, we have another arc that I got years ago. April 2022 is when this came out, so I probably got this like beginning of 2022. Post-Traumatic by Chantal V. Johnson. I've heard such good things about this, specifically from one of my patrons, M. Post-Traumatic is a new kind of survivor narrative featuring a complex heroine who is blazingly, indelibly alive. Razor-sharp prose, mordant wit, delivers a psychologically astute story about the aftermath of trauma that somehow manages to brim with warmth, laughter, and hope. That just sounds so good, just based on that. I'm excited to see how I like this writing. I don't think I've seen anything else by this author. Oh my god, they're also a lawyer. That's wild. I also love this cover. It's so like edgy and so aesthetically pleasing. It looks like a magazine cover. Those are all 25 of the books that I'm going to read in 2025. Otherwise, I'm canceling my channel. I'm confident in myself for this year. I have high hopes because I've been more strategic. I've been nicer to myself. It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be great. Let me know if you're interested in any of these books or have read any of them, and let me know which ones to prioritize. If you made it to the end of this video, put fireworks or like sparkle emojis in the comments down below to represent the new year. Thank you so much for watching. Hope y'all had a great day. Great day. Hope y'all had a 5-star day, okay? Fuck great. We're shooting for 5-star days all around, all of 2025. Thank you so much for watching. Did I say don't forget to do some self-care already? If not, you know, do some self-care twice today. I'll see you in my next video. Bye.